A 150-car train was carrying a huge amount of toxic chemicals when it derailed near the town of East Palestine in Ohio. That included chemicals like vinyl chloride, which is linked to cancer, and phosgene, which was actually used as a chemical weapon in World War I. To avoid an explosion, authorities decided to do a controlled release of these chemicals, which required an evacuation of over 5,000 residents due to the potential for water and air contamination. Not everyone was able to leave, and now some residents say they're feeling sick. The EPA found that while the air quality was safe, small amounts of butyl acrylate were detected in the Ohio River Basin, which is home to some 25 million people. This has raised a lot of questions about the safety of transporting hazardous materials on trains, especially ones going through communities, with some local leaders calling on President Biden to take action before things get worse.
You guys are gonna wait. I'm gonna feed the goats first. The Sunday after the derailment, I went to put them away for the night, and I had a dead rooster in my yard. Initially, I thought maybe just something random happened to it. I wasn't sure. I didn't put two and two together because we were told it was safe. And then I had another one that I found a few minutes later who was isolating himself. He did not go in for the night. I had to carry him into the coop. I had another one who was starting to walk funny. You can see that his legs are just not working right. This is infuriating and it's sad. It was 2 days after the detonation. He completely couldn't walk anymore. He was completely coherent. If I put him by food and water, he would eat and drink perfectly fine, but he couldn't use his legs anymore. And I also, the same night, had a hen who I put in the coop. She went up on the roost and then started seizing and fell off the roost. And it happened multiple times after that. She has since seemed to not be having those, so I don't know if it was the initial exposure that just messed with her system and now she's okay. I don't know what the long-term effects are. They were perfectly healthy before all this happened, and within 24 hours, they all dropped. That's just not normal, and it was all slightly different symptoms. I also had 2 rabbits die. They were within 24 hours. It was literally overnight. They just dropped. This is the fish. Okay, so I went down to the creek right by my house, and mind you, we're almost 2 weeks later, and this is what we still have. There are literally hundreds of dead fish. The stream that is contaminated, Leslie Run, runs right into my property. It dumps into the creek by my property. The EPA was saying, the fish are repopulating already, and I'm like, there was not one living thing in that creek. Not one. My heart goes out to the people that are even closer. I mean, I know what I'm dealing with. I'm not drinking my water. I don't trust it at all.
This is authorities in a river outside of East Palestine scooping up dead fish in the river. So a citizen, journalist, maybe just a citizen, I don't even know if this person's a reporter or not, is capturing officials in a river scraping away the dead fish. Which means that this is not 1 fish or 2 fish or 3 fish. This is not one river. This is not right near where this spill happened. Not the rail car derailed just next to this and therefore this one river was contaminated. No. This is widespread. There's a lot of wildlife that has been killed, so much so that the government feels it necessary to clear out the wildlife that has been killed by the vinyl chloride and the other toxic chemicals that have been spilled by this car.
Shalom. I would like to give all honor, glory, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. I would like to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to all you sincere Akim, pushing this word out across the 4 corners of the world. I have an article right here from newstarget.com, and the title says, over 43,000 aquatic animals died in the aftermath of Norfolk Southern train derailment in East Palestine, and that's in Ohio. And this article was published on February the 27th, 2023, and it says, the Ohio Department of Natural Resources recently estimated that more than 43,000 fish and other aquatic animals have died due to the chemical spill by the Norfolk Southern train derailment in East Palestine. ODNR Director Mary Mertz announced on Thursday, February the 23rd, that roughly 38,222 minnows and about 5,550 other aquatic animals such as small fish, crayfish, amphibians, and macroinvertebrates were killed in the 5-mile span of waterways from the derailment site. The ODNR noted that on February the 15th, the number of aquatic animals killed by the disaster was less than 3,000, primarily minnows and small fish, based on an initial investigation of 4 sites around the train derailment area. The state agency said it went to the train derailment site the morning after the crash to determine the impact of the chemical spill on aquatic life, to survey nearby waterways for dead aquatic animals, and to collect data and specimens to inform the total. The ODNR collaborated with private company Enviro Science to help collect data on the number of dead aquatic animals in the area and to help collect and remove these dead animals from the waters to prevent further harm to any other animals in the area. So, as you know, with this so-called train wreck and explosion, or they were classified in the news as train derailment that took place in East Palestine, Ohio this month. It was carrying some cancer-causing agents, such as isobutylene, ethylene glycol, vinyl chloride, and it coincidentally spilled in the Ohio River. And now you have the residents, the different workers who was working near that site, are complaining about different health conditions, such as headaches, nausea, irritation of the eyes, and you also have people getting diagnosed with chemical bronchitis. And I definitely believe via the spirit that this was deliberately designed by the so-called powers that be. And that's referring to the nobility of Esau Edom. And you had a movie that came out last year, 2022, that was called White Noise. And this particular movie so-called predicted a scenario just like this, which also took place in Ohio. And what makes this even more crazier or stranger, you had actual East Palestine residents that played extras within this movie called White Noise. So concerning this East Palestine derailment, it has forced out hundreds of people within that area to evacuate because of these hazardous fumes and also water contamination. And the point I'm bringing out in the spirit in this lesson, this is also harmfully affecting the aquatic life, which plays a very essential dynamic in this ecosystem. And just like they say, all roads lead to Rome, well, in this case, when it comes to wickedness, lies, false flags, witchcrafts, destroying the earth, and the list goes on, all roads lead to the man of sin. And that's referring to the tabernacle of Esau Edom. And let's get that in the book of Psalm 140:1. This is our forefather King David speaking in the spirit. Deliver me, O Lord Yahweh, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man. So that evil and violent man is referring to the man of sin, or the son of perdition, Esau Edom, the son of hell. In that movie, Planet of the Apes, which came out in 1968, one of the quotes is stated, "Beware the beast man, for he is the devil's pun. Along among God's primates, he kills for sport or lust or greed. Yeah, he will murder his brother to possess his brother's land. Let him not breed in great numbers, for he will make a desert of his home and yours. Shun him, drive him back into his jungle lair, for he is the harbinger of death." And a harbinger is something like a precursor, a forerunner, or like an indicator. So this is nothing but a telltale sign in the spirit that this only can be pinpointed to Esau Edom, the so-called Caucasian race. So he is definitely that evil and violent man. And he's playing a great part of that role that Yahweh Ba'ashem Abshai gave him in this movie, what we call life, by partaking into his blessing, which is the sword. That's why it's stated in Revelation, the 6th chapter and the 4th verse, how there went out another horse that was red, referring to the tabernacle of Esau Edom, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. And it goes into how they should kill one another, and there was given unto him a great sword, which is an instrument of death. So right here, our forefather King David speaking in the spirit, deliver me, O Yahweh, from the evil man, preserve me from the violent man, which imagine mischiefs in their heart continually are they gathered together for war. Verse 3, they have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. And this is another telltale sign. This is referring to this so-called white man. And that's because a serpent goes into like a treacherous person, especially one who exploits a position of trust in order to betray it. And it says within the Apocrypha how the enemy speaks sweetly with his lips. So right here it says they have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poison is under their lips. Salah. And that's how you know with this so-called train derailment that took place in East Palestine, Ohio, was not something that just happened randomly. This was intentionally designed by the so-called powers that be. So he speaketh lies. So that's why it says they have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poison is under their lips. And linking up with the book of Psalm 144:8, it says, whose mouth speaketh vanity, and their right hand is a right hand of falsehood. And your right hand is supposed to represent honor, integrity, having a righteous standard. And by Esau being that vessel of dishonor, he does everything backwards and adverse to the ways of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. So that's how we know when we see this on the news through the spirit, this is nothing but a false flag to bring forth this NWO, which is their so-called enterprise. So verse 4, keep me, O Yahweh, from the hands of the wicked, preserve me from the violent man who have proposed to overthrow my goings. When you read the book of Psalm, the 83rd chapter, all these different nations take crafty counsels, and that's beginning with the tabernacle of Edom, their different summits, different world economic forums, all of their different secret dark councils, and they conspire together by coming against the Israelites. As it says, let us cut them off for being a nation, and that the name of Israel may no more be in remembrance. So that's how they're trying to propose to overthrow our goings. And that's by eternally disconnecting us from our power source, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. But that's definitely not going to work, because as you can see right here in the spirit, King David was talking about preserve me from that evil and violent man. And in this day of time, you have the rest of King David's men going into the house of David are not going to bow their knees to the image of Baal. So due to all of this environmental disaster that Esau is causing, the aftermath is over 43,000 aquatic animals are dropping dead. And anything dealing with aquatic, that is some type of organism that's living solely in the water or on the water, because you do have like aquatic plants. And this is also affecting the different livestock, wildlife. You have birds dropping dead too. So as you can see through the spirit, you have an unfit king, and that's referring to the tabernacle of Esau, Edom, and that power seat of rulership. And he is really like the slum lord of the earth, because the things that we are seeing in these end times are totally messed up. And we know it's all prophetic, but you still be in the flesh, you be like, dang, like why? Like why would you do this? So the point I'm trying to convey in the spirit, how this whole earth is in a mournful state. And that takes me right to Isaiah 24 verse 4. The earth mourned and faded away. So this planet earth has a spirit. And this planet earth is definitely in a lamenting state. So the earth mourned and faded away. The world languished and faded away, which goes into how the inhabitants of this earth are constantly becoming more weaker, feeble. You have this devil continually stripping away the nutrients from the food, contaminating the quality of air and the water. I came across an article not too long ago, and it was pinpointing the plastic pollution and how you have millions of animals dying every year due to this plague of plastic. So therefore the earth mourned and faded away, the world languished and faded away, the haughty people of the earth do languish. So you might have someone with some type of sense asking, like, why are these things occurring in these times? And here's the answer in verse 5. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. So everything that Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua says is good, you're able to do, Esau flips that all around or tosses it to the side and comes up with its own laws, policies, and different commandments. And that's why it says in prayer Azariah 1:9, the most hateful forsakers of the Most High Yahweh, and to an unjust king and the most wicked in all the world. All right, so back to the article, and it says, deaths mostly occur immediately after a toxic spill, long-term effects still unknown. The ODNR and environment science estimate that over the 7 miles of land immediately affected by the chemical spill from the Norfolk Southern train derailment, aquatic species living in waterways located within 5 miles of the site were killed immediately. Although dead aquatic species still remain in impacted waterways, the entirety of the impact to the aquatic life is believed to have occurred in the first 24 hours after the derailment. Noted Mertz. These small fish are all believed to have been killed immediately after the derailment. Mertz added that ODNR officers searched for additional dead aquatic wildlife beyond the impacted waterways in the days after the crash. These searches brought officers to the Ohio River down through Jefferson County and at the New Cumberland Locks and Dam, a dam around 20 miles south of East Palestine. These searches did not find any dead aquatic animals. And that's what they say. You can't take their word for it. And it says, the director added that the agency is also waiting for test results on non-aquatic animals found near the train derailment, including birds and possums. The ODNR does not believe these non-aquatic animals were immediately made sick by the derailment. However, we just read in Isaiah 24:5 how the earth is defiled under the inhabitants thereof. So even these non-aquatic animals are still being defiled, no matter what. And that's the point I want to highlight, including birds, which takes me to the prophecy right here in the book of Hosea 4, starting at verse 1. And it says, hear the word of the Lord Yahweh, ye children of Israel, for the Lord Yahweh have a controversy with the inhabitants of the land. So if you have a controversy with someone, that means you have a quarrel, a bone to pick with them. And it says, because there is no truth, nor mercy, nor knowledge of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua in the land. Verse 2, by swearing and lying and killing and stealing and committing adultery, they break out, and blood touching blood. And here's the point, verse 3. Therefore should the land mourn. We are definitely in those times where the whole land is mourning. You have the soil constantly being polluted, constantly being worked on, not giving no type of rest to it, and it's not able to provide its best strength. So therefore should the land mourn, and everyone that dwelleth therein shall languish with the beasts of the field. We just read about non-aquatic animals, and they try to so-called say they're not being affected by this so-called train derailment of all these cancer-causing chemicals or agents flowing into the water. And you know these different non-aquatic animals are drinking from this Ohio River. So therefore, they are definitely defiled as well. So it says right here in the prophecy, with the beasts of the field and with the fowls of heaven, these birds. And you have a lot of these birds are dropping dead. Yea, the fishes of the sea also should be taken away. And right here from this article, you can see a fish being taken away. Just gave up the spirit because of the inhabitants thereof. Which takes me to another article, and it's called yourfishguide.com. And this very article has some interesting points. How do fish help the environment? Which was published on March the 24th, 2020. And it says, fish help the environment. Like all living creatures, fish have interdependent relationships with other living and non-living organisms in their environment. Such interdependence results from their position as a vital marine ecosystem, their extension will have adverse effects on Earth. How do fish help the environment? As such, fish makes numerous contributions to the protection of the environment. These include providing essential nutrients, regulating carbon flux, and active links between ecosystems. And as you can see right here, how fish provide essential nutrients. And this is all for survival of the ecosystem. And this is all for the survival of humankind, animal kind as well. But it's something else I want to pinpoint right here. It says, regulating the carbon flux. Schools of fish are known to aid in regulating carbon flux between the atmosphere and the bodies of water. Carbon flux refers to the amount of carbon exchanged between the carbon pools on Earth, such as the atmosphere, bodies of water. Fish have an indirect role in mediating carbon flux, but it is an unwelcome role. For example, a nutrient-rich lake becomes a carbon sink that removes and stores carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. Fish are then crucial in decreasing the greenhouse effect. They are keeping the environment in a healthy state. But therefore you have the son of perdition having that powerful God complex, and he is totally contaminating the whole earth. And I also want to pinpoint this out, serving as active links between ecosystems. Due to their migrations and movements, Fish serve as a vital link in the dynamics of ecosystems across bodies of water, but they are also important food sources for a wide variety of animals on land and air. These animals include bears, birds, seals, as well as humans. Indeed, fish is one of man's primary food sources. For this reason, their extinction would mean radical changes in our way of life, even in our civilization. So by Esau's presence alone, he is causing much error in the dynamics of the ecosystems. And that takes me to the book of Psalm 82, verse 5. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. And when you walk on in darkness, you're totally blacked out spiritually because you avoided a light and you are not abiding by the true light, which is the understanding of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, which it says right here, they walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. So Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua set up divine fundamentals, establishments on how to run this planet Earth in a functionable fashion. So therefore, if it's not ran in those divine bases that Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua set up, this is where we stand in these latter days. Over 43,000 aquatic animals died in the aftermath of Norfolk Southern train derailment in East Palestine. And I'm quite sure it's way more higher than this number right here. And you have simple-minded Jake who call themselves teaching as being Israelites by stating that Esau is not important or he's not the main issue, where things like this that's occurring will eventually affect your everyday way of living. And as more and more of these evil days draw nigh, you can see why Yahushua stated, like, if he doesn't return, no flesh will be saved. So, Abarat Azah, you all was edified, you all stay strong, keep pushing forward. Shalom.